London Royal Guard marched to Buckingham Palace. Changing of the guard at Buckingham Palace, London. Emma, a young woman from Canada, stepped off the tube at Green Park Station and adjusted the strap of her backpack, feeling a mix of excitement and nervous anticipation. London had always been a city she dreamed of visiting, with its long history, grand architecture, and the promise of witnessing moments that were written into the pages of the world's storybooks. Today, she wasn't just here to see the city. She was here to experience a tradition that had been performed for centuries, the changing of the guard at Buckingham Palace. As Emma walked along the polished stone sidewalks, she took in the sights around her. The streets were alive, not just with people, but with the rhythm of the city itself. Red double-decker buses glided past, their bright color standing out against the muted gray of the morning sky. Black cabs darted through the traffic with surprising speed, their drivers expertly weaving through lanes. Shop windows reflected the pale sunlight, displaying everything from designer clothing to quaint souvenirs. Street performers played cheerful tunes on the corners, adding a touch of music to the ambient noise of London life. The city felt alive, breathing and moving around her, and Emma felt a thrill as she stepped deeper into it. Her route to Buckingham Palace took her through the Mall, the wide, straight avenue lined with trees whose leaves were just beginning to show the soft golds and reds of autumn. Tourists strolled along the path, some in pairs, others in small groups, all with cameras in hand. Emma couldn't help but smile at their enthusiasm. It mirrored her own. She passed by the Victoria Memorial, the massive marble monument that glimmered in the morning light, its statues of angels and lions exuding a sense of majesty and history. People were already gathering near the memorial, eager to secure a good spot for the ceremony. The buzz of anticipation was tangible, almost electric, and Emma felt herself swept up in it. As she edged closer to the palace gates, she noticed families with children perched on their parents' shoulders, teenagers chatting excitedly, and elderly couples holding hands, their faces lit with curiosity. There was a sense of shared excitement, a quiet understanding among everyone that they were about to witness something special. Street vendors sold hats, flags, and small souvenirs adorned with the Union Jack. Emma watched as a little boy, perhaps no older than 6, waved his tiny flag with wide-eyed wonder, and she felt a warm smile spread across her face. It was these small moments, she realized, that made traveling so meaningful, the glimpses of human joy and connection that transcended language and nationality. Emma's eyes were drawn to the palace itself, standing tall and regal at the end of the mall. Its iconic facade, with the stone columns and balconies, seemed to command respect, yet there was a welcoming quality to it, as if it had been watching over London for centuries. She imagined the countless ceremonies, the thousands of guards who had marched across its grounds, and the millions of visitors who had stood where she now stood, waiting in eager anticipation. History felt alive here, not as a distant story in a book, but as something tangible, something she could almost touch with her eyes. She joined the crowd by the Victoria Memorial, finding a spot that gave her a clear view of the palace gates. Around her, the murmurs of conversation filled the air, languages from all over the world blending together in a symphony of curiosity. People compared notes on what they had read about the ceremony, discussed the best places to stand for photographs, and shared stories of their travels. Emma found herself listening, intrigued by the different perspectives. Some visitors were seasoned travelers, eager to check Buckingham Palace off their list, while others were witnessing the ceremony for the first time, eyes wide with excitement and anticipation. The morning stretched on, and the crowd grew denser, each person shifting slightly to get a better view. Emma noticed the sense of discipline among the spectators. Though everyone was excited, there was a quiet respect for the event about to take place. Conversations hushed as the distant sound of drums began to echo down the mall. It was faint at first, almost imperceptible, but it gradually grew louder, more rhythmic, drawing the crowd's attention. Emma felt a shiver of anticipation run down her spine. She realized that this was the moment when centuries of tradition would come alive, when history and the present would meet in perfect harmony. As the drumbeats grew stronger, the royal guards emerged in the distance. Their red tunics were bright against the muted tones of the city, and their tall bearskin hats added an element of grandeur to their appearance. Emma's breath caught in her throat as she watched them step in perfect unison, the precision of their movements remarkable. Each footfall seemed to echo through the street, carrying with it the weight of history and the pride of duty. The guards moved with a sense of purpose, their eyes focused straight ahead, their expressions serious yet composed. Emma was struck by the contrast between their rigid discipline and the excitement of the crowd, a delicate balance between tradition and public fascination. The marching band followed, filling the air with music that was both powerful and elegant. The brass instruments gleamed in the sunlight, and the rhythmic drumbeats matched the precise steps of the guards. Emma found herself tapping her foot along with the rhythm, unable to resist the energy that pulsed through the air. Around her, people were taking photos and videos, but she felt herself captivated more by the experience than by the act of documenting it. It was as if she were witnessing a living story unfold, one that had been rehearsed for centuries, yet remained vibrant and alive in the present. Emma's mind wandered to the lives of the guards themselves. She wondered what it must be like to spend days and weeks performing this ceremonial duty, standing in perfect formation, knowing that countless eyes were watching. She imagined the pride they must feel, the dedication required, and the sense of honor that came with being part of such a long-standing tradition. Her curiosity grew, not just about the ceremony, but about the people behind it, the individuals whose discipline and commitment brought this spectacle to life. The crowd shifted slightly as the guards drew closer, the sound of their boots against the pavement creating a steady, hypnotic rhythm. Emma's excitement mingled with a sense of awe. She felt as though she were part of something much larger than herself. It was more than a tourist attraction. It was a celebration of history, duty, and continuity. The sight of the guards, so composed and meticulous, reminded her of the importance of dedication and respect for tradition. She felt inspired, as if she had glimpsed a small piece of the enduring spirit of London itself. As the morning sun rose higher, casting a warm glow over the mall, Emma stood quietly, absorbing the scene around her. The chatter of the crowd had softened, replaced by the rhythmic march of the guards and the stirring notes of the band. She realized that this experience was more than a simple event to witness. It was a moment to pause, reflect, and appreciate the beauty of ritual, discipline, and shared history. Emma smiled, feeling a deep sense of gratitude for being here in this place at this moment. She knew that the memory of this morning, the excitement, the awe, and the energy of the crowd would stay with her long after she left London. With each passing moment, the anticipation built, and Emma felt herself becoming more aware of the rhythm and energy around her. The combination of history, pageantry, and human connection created an atmosphere that was impossible to forget. She watched as tourists adjusted their positions, children waved their little flags with glee, and cameras clicked incessantly, capturing fleeting moments of wonder. Emma felt a quiet thrill in knowing that she, too, was part of this living tradition, sharing in an experience that had been cherished for generations. By the time the guards were just a few steps away from Buckingham Palace, Emma's heart was racing with excitement. The sounds of the drums and the music of the band filled her ears, the sight of the guards, brilliant uniforms filled her eyes, and the energy of the crowd filled her spirit. It was a moment of pure anticipation, a prelude to a ceremony that would soon unfold in all its splendor. She took a deep breath, feeling fully present, fully alive, and fully part of a story that had been centuries in the making. The The sound of the drums grew louder as the royal guards continued their steady march toward Buckingham Palace. Emma could feel the vibration of each step in her chest, as if the very streets of London were keeping time with the rhythm of their disciplined pace. She adjusted her camera, trying to capture the scene, but she realized no photo could truly convey the precision and dignity of the guards as they moved in perfect unison. Each soldier's posture was straight, their eyes focused ahead, and their expressions serious. There was no sign of fatigue, no hesitation, just a seamless display of coordination honed through rigorous training. As they passed closer, Emma noticed the details that made the spectacle so remarkable. The bright red tunics were immaculately pressed, the golden buttons shining in the sunlight. The tall bearskin hats seemed almost impossibly balanced atop the soldiers' heads, yet not a single hair moved out of place with the quick, measured steps of their march. Their black boots shone against the pavement, polished to perfection. Each movement, no matter how small, was precise, controlled, and in perfect harmony with the others. It was a performance of discipline, pride, and tradition, yet it was also very real, a living demonstration of centuries of history. Emma turned her attention to the band that accompanied the guards. Brass instruments gleamed in the sunlight, reflecting tiny flashes of light onto the crowd around her. The band members played with flawless timing, their music echoing through the streets. Each note carried a sense of ceremony and grandeur, and Emma felt the music filling her chest as if she were part of the rhythm itself. The drum beats were steady and commanding, a heartbeat for the entire procession. She noticed the way the musicians' eyes moved to one another, silently communicating, maintaining the perfect pace for the guards' steps. It was mesmerizing, the way the visual and auditory elements came together so flawlessly. As the guards and band approached Buckingham Palace, Emma could see the crowd's excitement grow even more. People whispered in anticipation, craning their necks for the best view. Children squealed softly with delight, waving their small Union Jack flags. Tourists from all over the world stood shoulder to shoulder, united by a shared curiosity and admiration for this historic tradition. Emma felt a sense of connection to these strangers, a moment of camaraderie formed simply by witnessing a shared experience. In that crowd for that morning, everyone seemed to pause their busy lives and step into a story that had been unfolding for generations. Emma watched as the guards' formation began to shift subtly. Those who had been in the rear started moving forward to take their positions in the ceremonial lineup at the palace gates. It was fascinating to see how smoothly the soldiers adjusted, moving as one cohesive unit without disrupting the rhythm of their march. The precision required for this kind of coordination was astonishing. Emma imagined months, even years, of practice that must have gone into mastering these movements. Each guard relied on the others to maintain the formation, and every small action was crucial to keeping the entire performance flawless. The band's music changed slightly, a signal that the ceremony was about to begin. Emma felt her heart quicken with excitement. The guards' steps seemed to grow even more deliberate, almost as if they were aware of the significance of the moment. She could see the determination in their eyes, the pride in their stance. It was not just about marching. It was about upholding a tradition, representing something far greater than themselves. Emma thought about the countless soldiers who had performed this duty before, and she realized that she was witnessing a living connection to history, a chain stretching back through decades and centuries. As the guards reached the palace gates, Emma noticed a subtle change in the atmosphere. The crowd grew quieter, sensing that the main event was about to unfold. The guards stopped in perfect alignment, forming neat lines that extended across the palace forecourt. The band moved into position, their instruments raised, ready to play the ceremonial tunes that would accompany the changing of the guard. Emma felt a sense of anticipation, almost like holding her breath, waiting for the first signal that the ceremony had officially begun. Every detail seemed intentional, every movement meaningful, as if each soldier knew precisely when to act and how to present themselves. Emma's attention shifted to the individuals in the formation. Each guard had a unique presence, yet they all contributed to the overall unity of the group. She noticed the way they held their rifles, the subtle adjustments to their stance, and the quiet focus in their expressions. There was a human element behind the uniforms, a sense of dedication and discipline that required both physical skill and mental concentration. Emma realized that these soldiers were performing a role that demanded respect, not only for the monarchy they represented, but for the tradition itself. Their commitment was evident in every step, every gesture, and every note of music that filled the air. The crowd's excitement mingled with a sense of reverence. Visitors whispered to one another, commenting on the guards' impressive precision and the beauty of the music. Emma noticed how people adjusted their positions, trying to get a better view without disturbing the formation or blocking someone else. There was a shared understanding that this was not just a performance but a ceremony of significance. Even in the midst of thousands of spectators, there was a sense of order, a quiet respect for what was happening. Emma felt grateful to be part of it, to witness a moment where history and tradition converged in such a visible and powerful way. As the ceremony officially began, Emma could see the outgoing guards preparing to hand over their duties to the new soldiers. There was a formal exchange, a series of movements carefully orchestrated to demonstrate the passing of responsibility. Emma watched the precision with fascination, the way each soldier acknowledged their counterpart, the deliberate steps, and the exact timing of each action. It was a dance of discipline, performed not for entertainment, but as a testament to commitment and honor. Emma realized that every detail had meaning, every gesture a story of tradition, respect, and duty. She noticed that some visitors were recording the moment, trying to capture it for memories, while others simply watched, absorbing the sight and sound without distraction. Emma found herself leaning slightly forward, fully engaged, feeling the energy of the moment resonate within her. The guards' movements were both powerful and elegant, commanding attention without any need for exaggeration. Emma reflected on the dedication required to maintain such composure and focus, imagining the rigorous training and discipline behind every step. It was inspiring, a reminder of what human beings could achieve when driven by purpose and tradition. Emma's eyes followed the guards as they completed the initial part of the ceremony, moving into their positions with flawless coordination. The music swelled, and the sound seemed to carry the weight of history, echoing off the palace walls and into the surrounding streets. Emma felt a sense of wonder, almost as if she had stepped into a storybook, a tale that had been written and rewritten over centuries. She realized that this experience was not just about seeing a ceremony. It was about understanding the values and traditions that had shaped a nation. The precision, the discipline, and the pride of the guards were a reflection of something larger than herself, something enduring and timeless. As the morning progressed, Emma took note of the small details that made the experience so captivating. The guards' uniforms were immaculate, but she also noticed their human qualities, the slight movements of their hands, the careful way they adjusted their hats, and the quiet focus in their eyes. The band's music was vibrant, but it also required incredible skill and synchronization. Emma began to appreciate the layers of effort behind the spectacle, the countless hours of preparation, and the dedication that allowed this centuries-old tradition to continue. It was a lesson in discipline, respect, and the beauty of human achievement. By the time the guards were fully in position at Buckingham Palace, Emma felt fully immersed in the experience. The rhythm of their march, the power of the music, and the energy of the crowd created an atmosphere that was impossible to forget. She realized that this was more than a simple event for tourists. It was a living tradition, a connection to history, and a celebration of dedication and honor. Emma felt a deep sense of appreciation for the guards, for the ceremony, and for the opportunity to witness it firsthand. As the ceremony continued, Emma stood quietly, absorbing the scene. The guards' movements, the music, and the energy of the crowd blended into a single, unforgettable experience. She knew that this moment, the precision, the discipline, and the sense of history she felt, would stay with her long after she left London. It was a memory she would carry, a story she would share, and a lesson in the power of tradition and commitment. Emma stood with her eyes fixed on Buckingham Palace, feeling a mix of awe and curiosity as the changing of the guard ceremony reached its core. The guards, who had marched so precisely from St. James's Palace, now formed neat lines in the forecourt, their red uniforms glowing in the morning light. The brass buttons on their tunics shimmered, and their bearskin hats seemed almost impossibly tall. The rhythmic clatter of their boots against the pavement created a heartbeat that echoed in the air, drawing everyone's attention to the unfolding scene. Emma felt a shiver of excitement as she realized she was witnessing a living piece of history, something that had been performed for centuries with meticulous precision. The outgoing guards began to move with calm, measured steps, signaling the start of the actual ceremony. Emma observed carefully as the soldiers demonstrated flawless coordination in every motion. Each hand gesture, each turn of the head, and each step carried a sense of purpose. There was no room for error, yet the soldiers executed every movement with effortless grace. Emma found herself holding her breath, captivated by the discipline and precision of these men and women. She was aware that she wasn't just watching a performance. She was watching a ritual that symbolized loyalty, honor, and duty, qualities that the guards embodied fully in every detail. The incoming guards approached from the street, their faces serious and composed. They moved in perfect synchronization, maintaining the same rhythmic cadence as those already at the palace. Emma was fascinated by the exactness of their timing. Even the smallest misstep could have been noticeable, yet every soldier was in harmony with the others. The discipline required for this kind of coordination was evident in every movement. Emma began to appreciate that this ceremony was more than a display for tourists. It was a demonstration of dedication, training, and centuries of tradition. Each soldier had a role, and every role mattered. The two groups of guards met at the central point in front of the palace. Emma watched as the formal exchange began, a silent yet powerful act of passing responsibility. The outgoing guards stepped aside, their rifles moving in precise arcs, while the incoming guards took their places. There was an unspoken understanding between the soldiers, a kind of silent communication honed through rigorous training. Emma was struck by the way this ritual communicated respect and professionalism without the need for words. It was a language of discipline, pride, and history that anyone could understand simply by watching. The band continued to play ceremonial music, their instruments adding majesty to the scene. The trumpets, drums, and flutes created a layered sound that seemed to carry the weight of centuries. Emma listened closely, noticing how each note aligned with the guards' movements. The music was not merely accompaniment. It was an essential part of the ceremony, guiding the rhythm of the march and enhancing the visual impact of the guards' precision. She felt as though the music and the movements were speaking to her, telling a story of honor, duty, and continuity. As the ceremony progressed, Emma's attention turned to the smallest details. She noticed the way the guards adjusted their hats, the careful positioning of their rifles, and the subtle shifts of their feet to maintain perfect alignment. Every motion was intentional, and each soldier seemed aware of the importance of their role. Emma thought about the dedication and training that must have gone into mastering these movements. It was clear that the guards were not just performing a routine. They were embodying a tradition that had been passed down through generations. Every step and gesture carried significance, a link to the past, and a demonstration of discipline for the present. The crowd around her watched in respectful silence, captivated by the scene before them. Tourists whispered in excitement, trying to explain the nuances to each other, while children stared wide-eyed at the striking uniforms and the imposing presence of the guards. Emma felt a connection to everyone around her, a shared understanding that they were witnessing something extraordinary. Even in a crowd of strangers, there was a collective appreciation for the ceremony, a sense of reverence that transcended language and nationality. It was a moment where people from all walks of life could pause and experience history together. Emma's gaze shifted back to the guards. She observed the way the incoming soldiers took their positions with precision, their movements synchronized to perfection. The outgoing guards, now stepping aside, carried themselves with quiet dignity, their eyes forward, their expressions composed. Emma imagined the countless soldiers who had performed this duty before, each contributing to the continuity of a tradition that had lasted for centuries. She realized that this ceremony was not just about pageantry. It was about maintaining a standard, honoring a history, and demonstrating the values of loyalty, respect, and dedication. The ceremony continued with subtle yet important actions that Emma found fascinating. The soldiers exchanged brief, deliberate salutes, their rifles angled carefully to match the exact requirements of the ritual. Emma noticed that the timing of each movement was impeccable. The guards' discipline was visible in every aspect of their appearance, the crispness of their uniforms, the alignment of their hats, and the steadiness of their hands. She realized that this was a demonstration of human capability, where training, precision, and pride came together in perfect harmony. It was a performance that required both mental and physical strength, and Emma felt awe at the dedication it represented. Emma also observed the interactions between the soldiers themselves. Though the ceremony was formal and disciplined, there was a quiet camaraderie in the way they moved together. Each soldier relied on the others to maintain perfect formation, to ensure that the visual impact of the ceremony remained flawless. She noticed how their eyes occasionally flicked to each other for coordination, and how every motion was synchronized down to the smallest detail. Emma felt a sense of admiration for the teamwork and trust that allowed such a precise ritual to unfold seamlessly. The music shifted slightly, signaling another phase of the ceremony. Emma could sense the subtle changes in the guards' movements, a careful adjustment that only someone familiar with the tradition would recognize immediately. She watched as the soldiers executed each step with precision, their eyes focused, their expressions unwavering. The discipline on display was remarkable, yet it was accompanied by a grace that made the entire scene almost hypnotic. Emma felt herself drawn into the rhythm of the ceremony, her excitement and admiration growing with every movement. As the incoming guards completed their positioning, the outgoing soldiers prepared to depart. Emma observed them marching away with the same precision they had displayed on arrival, each step deliberate and exact. The band's music shifted again, signaling the end of this part of the ceremony, and the air seemed to carry a sense of completion, a satisfaction that the ritual had been executed perfectly. Emma felt a sense of awe and respect for the soldiers, not just for their appearance but for the dedication, training, and discipline that allowed them to perform this centuries-old tradition flawlessly. Emma's eyes wandered over the palace itself. Buckingham Palace stood as a symbol of history, tradition, and continuity. She imagined the countless ceremonies that had taken place in front of these gates, the generations of soldiers who had upheld this ritual, and the millions of visitors who had come to witness it. The palace was more than a building. It was a stage for history, a keeper of traditions, and a reminder of the values that had endured over time. Emma felt privileged to be part of this moment, to experience a living tradition in such a vivid and memorable way. The crowd began to shift slightly as the ceremony reached its conclusion. Emma noticed the quiet satisfaction on the faces of the spectators, the smiles, the nods of approval, the soft murmurs of admiration. Everyone seemed aware that they had witnessed something special, something that could not be fully captured in photographs or videos. Emma felt a sense of gratitude, knowing that she had experienced the ceremony not just as a tourist, but as a witness to history. She understood that this was a story she would carry with her, a memory that would remain vivid for years to come. As the final notes of the band faded into the morning air, Emma allowed herself a moment to reflect. She thought about the discipline of the guards, the beauty of the music, and the shared experience of the crowd. She realized that the ceremony was more than an event. It was a living connection to the past, a demonstration of human dedication, and a celebration of history and tradition. Emma felt inspired by the precision, the pride, and the elegance she had witnessed, and she knew that this experience would shape her view of London in a profound way. Standing there, watching the guards march away to continue their duties, Emma felt a sense of completion and wonder. She had not only seen the changing of the guard, she had experienced it, felt it, and understood its significance. The ceremony was a reminder that traditions endure not because of spectacle alone, but because of the commitment, discipline, and respect of those who uphold them. Emma smiled, feeling enriched by the experience, and knew that this morning at Buckingham Palace would remain a cherished memory, a vivid story she could carry with her forever. After the main part of the changing of the guard ceremony concluded, Emma lingered near the gates of Buckingham Palace, unwilling to leave just yet. The crowd had begun to disperse slowly, some heading to the nearby souvenir shops, while others moved toward the gardens or the famous Victoria Memorial. Yet, Emma felt drawn to observe more closely, curious about the little details that many visitors might overlook. She wanted to understand what went on behind the public spectacle, to see the human side of the guards and the discipline that made the ceremony possible. She noticed a group of guards standing quietly in a corner, waiting for the next part of their duties. Unlike the formal, synchronized movements of the ceremony, these soldiers moved with a subtle calmness, stretching slightly, adjusting their hats, and checking the alignment of their belts and buttons. Emma realized that every detail mattered, the smallest crease in a uniform, the polished shine of a boot, even the position of a rifle. These soldiers were meticulous in ways that went beyond what the public could see. She admired their dedication, understanding that the ceremony she had witnessed was only the visible part of a much larger system of discipline and preparation. A guide nearby began to explain some of the traditions to the remaining spectators. Emma listened closely, fascinated by the stories. She learned that each guard undergoes rigorous training before even being allowed to participate in the ceremonial duties. They practice marching for hours, learn the precise timing of each step, and train to maintain perfect posture and composure even under challenging conditions. Emma found it impressive that such dedication was required for what might seem like a simple parade. She realized that every moment of the ceremony represented countless hours of effort, focus, and commitment. Emma watched as one of the guards polished his rifle, moving with deliberate care and concentration. She noticed how he inspected every part, ensuring it was spotless and functioning perfectly. There was a sense of pride in his movements, a quiet satisfaction in performing these small tasks correctly. Emma thought about the centuries of tradition behind this routine, the generations of soldiers who had maintained these standards, passing down not only the skills but the values of honor, respect, and discipline. It was fascinating to see how the combination of human effort and historical continuity created a spectacle that was both impressive and meaningful. She observed the interactions among the guards themselves. Though the ceremony required strict formality, there was also a sense of camaraderie. They exchanged small, silent signals, adjusted each other's positions, and helped one another maintain perfect alignment. Emma realized that teamwork was essential. No soldier could perform the duty alone. The success of the ceremony depended on every individual understanding and respecting their role, while also supporting those around them. She felt inspired by this level of cooperation, recognizing how trust and discipline combined to create something far greater than the sum of its parts. The morning air was filled with the distant echoes of London's bustling streets, yet near the palace gates there was a calm and measured energy. Emma felt as if she had stepped into a separate world, one where time slowed, and the focus was entirely on duty, honor, and tradition. She noticed how the guards maintained perfect posture even while standing still for long periods. Their concentration was evident, and Emma admired the mental strength required to remain composed in front of hundreds of watching eyes. It was easy to see why this role was considered both an honor and a responsibility. As Emma continued observing, she noticed a small detail that fascinated her: the meticulous care given to their uniforms. Each button, each seam, and each insignia was perfectly arranged. The guards seemed to move with an awareness that even the smallest detail could make a difference in appearance and perception. Emma thought about the effort required to maintain this level of precision, not just for one day, but every day, rain or shine. She felt a sense of respect for the commitment and pride that these soldiers brought to their work, understanding that the ceremony was a reflection of their dedication as much as it was a public display. Nearby, a young child pointed excitedly at a guard, asking questions in a soft voice. Emma overheard a parent explaining that each soldier was trained to follow strict rules and that their role was part of a long-standing tradition that represented the monarchy and the nation. Emma smiled at the child's curiosity, realizing that this tradition was not only about ceremony but also about education, inspiration, and cultural heritage. Observing the guards closely, she saw how the discipline and pride they embodied served as a living lesson for everyone watching, regardless of age or nationality. Emma also noticed the way the guards interacted with their surroundings. They were fully aware of the presence of tourists, photographers, and onlookers, yet they moved with calm focus, never breaking formation or showing distraction. There was a sense of balance in their behavior, an ability to remain composed while being observed, a combination of professionalism and humility. Emma reflected on how this skill was not innate but developed over time, through repeated practice and a deep understanding of the importance of their role. She found it remarkable that such discipline could be maintained under constant public scrutiny. Her attention shifted to the musicians in the band, who were packing up their instruments after the ceremony. Emma noticed their quiet coordination, the care they took in handling their instruments, and the mutual respect among the members. Just like the guards, the musicians played a crucial role in the overall spectacle, creating a soundscape that enhanced the ceremony and synchronized perfectly with the marching soldiers. Emma realized that the changing of the guard was truly a collective effort, combining music, precision, and tradition in a seamless performance. It was a living example of how discipline, dedication, and coordination could produce something unforgettable. As the morning progressed, Emma walked closer to the side of the palace, trying to see some of the smaller details of the ceremony. She observed a senior officer giving instructions to the new guards, speaking quietly yet with authority. The incoming soldiers listened attentively, adjusting their positions and correcting small mistakes. Emma realized that this guidance was part of the continuous training that ensured the ceremony maintained its high standards. She admired the patience and leadership required to manage such a disciplined group, understanding that it took both skill and experience to uphold centuries of tradition. Emma noticed how the guards also took care of each other. When one soldier slightly adjusted his hat or uniform, another would offer a subtle nod or gesture to help. It was clear that teamwork and attention to detail were central to the success of the ceremony. Emma reflected on how this aspect of human connection was just as important as the public performance. Behind the polished appearance and precise movements was a community of individuals supporting one another to achieve a shared goal. She also observed the expressions of the soldiers during these moments. While the ceremony required a serious demeanor, Emma could see hints of pride and satisfaction in their eyes. They were aware that they were part of something much larger than themselves, a tradition that stretched back through generations. Emma felt inspired by the sense of purpose that radiated from each guard, realizing that their dedication went beyond personal achievement. They were custodians of history, representing values that had endured through time, and they carried that responsibility with dignity. Emma spent the next hour walking around the palace grounds, observing the careful preparation that continued even after the main ceremony. She saw soldiers practicing small movements, adjusting their alignment, and preparing for their next duty. She noticed the calm efficiency with which they worked, the quiet focus that allowed them to maintain high standards even in a busy public setting. Emma reflected on the effort and discipline required to maintain such consistency, realizing that what visitors saw as a few minutes of pageantry was the result of years of training, dedication, and attention to detail. As Emma finally stepped back from the palace gates, she felt a deep appreciation for the human effort behind the spectacle. She understood that the changing of the guard was not just a tourist attraction but a living tradition, a display of discipline, pride, and history. The meticulous attention to detail, the dedication of the soldiers, and the teamwork required to perform the ceremony seamlessly left a lasting impression on her. Emma realized that she had gained more than a memory of a beautiful event. She had gained insight into the values and commitment that made the tradition possible. Even as she walked away toward the bustling streets of London, Emma's mind remained with the guards she had watched so closely. She thought about the balance between ceremony and preparation, between public display and private discipline. The experience had taught her that tradition is not maintained by chance. It is upheld by people who dedicate themselves to excellence and pride in every small detail. She smiled at the thought, feeling inspired by the quiet strength, patience, and dedication she had witnessed. Emma turned her gaze one last time toward Buckingham Palace, its stone facade gleaming in the sunlight. The guards were already moving to other duties, their steps precise and purposeful, their presence dignified. She felt grateful for having had the chance to witness not only the public ceremony, but the behind-the-scenes dedication that made it all possible. The story of the guards, their discipline, and their commitment was something she would carry with her forever, a reminder that true excellence often lies in the details, the practice, and the quiet devotion of those who uphold it. Emma slowly walked away from Buckingham Palace, her eyes still lingering on the tall gates and the regal facade that had watched over London for centuries. The morning air was crisp and full of energy, with the sounds of the city blending into a background hum as people continued their daily routines. Yet for Emma, the world seemed a little different now. She had spent hours witnessing a tradition that had been performed for centuries, and it had left an impression on her that went far beyond simple sightseeing. She felt connected to something larger than herself, a living story of history, discipline, and pride. As she strolled down the mall, she reflected on the precision of the guards she had observed. Each movement had been executed with perfect timing and unwavering focus, yet behind the formality, she had glimpsed the humanity of the soldiers. The subtle adjustments of hats, the careful alignment of uniforms, the quiet camaraderie that allowed them to perform flawlessly. Emma realized that the ceremony was more than a display of military skill. It was a testament to dedication, teamwork, and the respect that individuals could show for history and tradition. The more she thought about it, the more she understood the depth of commitment required for such a role. Walking past the Victoria Memorial, Emma paused to take in the grandeur of the marble statues that stood in front of the palace. Lions, angels, and figures of historical significance seemed to watch over the crowd, their stone eyes silent witnesses to centuries of pageantry and ceremony. She imagined the countless people who had stood in her place, observing the same traditions, feeling the same mix of awe and excitement. It was a comforting thought. This continuity, the knowledge that no matter how much the city changed, some traditions remained, connecting past and present in ways that were both subtle and profound. Emma noticed a small group of tourists nearby, sharing their experiences and impressions. She overheard one person marveling at the precision of the guards, another commenting on the beauty of the music, and a child excitedly recounting every detail they had seen. Emma smiled, realizing that the ceremony was as much about inspiration as it was about tradition. Watching the guards had sparked curiosity and admiration not only in her but in countless others. She understood that this was one of the reasons such traditions endured, the ability to move and inspire people, creating memories that lasted far beyond the moment itself. Her thoughts turned to the personal sacrifices that the guards must make to uphold this tradition. Emma reflected on the discipline required, the long hours of training, and the constant attention to detail. She considered the mental strength needed to maintain focus, the patience required to stand still for extended periods, and the teamwork necessary to ensure perfection in every movement. These soldiers were not performing for applause or recognition. They were performing because they understood the importance of their role, the value of representing something larger than themselves. Emma felt a deep respect for their dedication and commitment. As she continued walking, Emma thought about the music that had accompanied the ceremony. The brass instruments, drums and flutes had blended together in perfect harmony, guiding the rhythm of the guards' movements and adding a layer of majesty to the spectacle. She realized that the musicians played an equally important role, requiring skill, practice, and coordination. The ceremony was not just about visual precision. It was a combination of sound, movement, and human effort, all synchronized to create a single, unforgettable experience. Emma felt inspired by how every part, no matter how small, contributed to the beauty and impact of the tradition. Emma paused to rest on a nearby bench, allowing herself to fully absorb the atmosphere. Tourists continued to pass by, some stopping to take photos, others quietly observing. Yet she felt a quiet sense of satisfaction, knowing she had witnessed something special. The ceremony had not only shown her the discipline of the guards, but had also allowed her to reflect on the values they represented: honor, dedication, teamwork, and respect for history. Emma realized that these values were not limited to ceremonial duties. They could inspire anyone, in any part of life, to strive for excellence and to act with integrity. She thought back to the moment when the outgoing guards had passed responsibility to the incoming soldiers. It had been a brief, silent exchange, yet it carried immense meaning. Emma appreciated the symbolism, the transfer of duty, the continuity of tradition, and the acknowledgement that history is preserved through careful, deliberate actions. She considered how this simple, structured process mirrored larger aspects of life, where responsibility and knowledge are passed from one generation to the next, ensuring that important values and traditions endure. Emma also reflected on the teamwork she had witnessed among the guards. Every movement had been coordinated, every gesture precise, and every soldier aware of their role within the group. The success of the ceremony depended on collective effort, on trust, and on mutual support. Emma realized that this lesson applied beyond the palace gates. It was a reminder of the power of collaboration, the importance of respecting others' roles, and the impact of working together toward a shared goal. She felt inspired to carry this understanding into her own life. As she walked along the tree-lined avenue, Emma noticed the calm energy of the city around her. London seemed alive in a different way now, vibrant yet steady, bustling yet respectful of the traditions that stood at its heart. The memories of the guards, disciplined march, the music, and the precision of the ceremony lingered in her mind. She felt a sense of gratitude for the experience, understanding that it had given her more than sightseeing memories. It had given her a deeper appreciation of history, human effort, and the beauty of discipline. Emma's gaze returned once more to Buckingham Palace. The sun reflected off its stone facade, highlighting the intricate details and grandeur that had captivated her from the start. She thought about the countless generations of soldiers, musicians, and onlookers who had come before her, and the countless more who would come after. This continuity created a connection that transcended time, a thread linking individuals through shared experiences and shared admiration for tradition. Emma felt privileged to be a part of that ongoing story, even if only for a brief morning. She walked closer to the gates one final time, taking in the smaller details she had not noticed earlier. The flags, the carvings, and the subtle decorations all contributed to the sense of ceremony and importance. Emma thought about how every element, no matter how minor, played a role in creating a cohesive and meaningful experience. She realized that attention to detail was not just about aesthetics. It was a reflection of care, respect, and dedication. The guards, the musicians, and the palace itself all contributed to a story that was both powerful and inspiring. Emma felt a gentle sense of reflection as she continued her stroll. She thought about the discipline of the guards, the precision of their movements, and the teamwork that made the ceremony flawless. She considered how these qualities could inspire her in her own life, encouraging her to approach challenges with focus, dedication, and respect for others. The experience had taught her that even small actions, when performed with care and purpose, could contribute to something meaningful and lasting. As the morning drew to a close, Emma decided it was time to leave the palace grounds. Yet she did so with a feeling of fulfillment and inspiration. She had not only witnessed the changing of the guard, but had also gained insight into the values, effort, and humanity that made the tradition possible. She knew that the memory of this experience would stay with her for a lifetime, a reminder of the beauty of discipline, the importance of teamwork, and the power of history to connect people across generations. Walking back through the bustling streets of London, Emma carried a quiet sense of pride and wonder. She felt connected to the millions of people who had experienced the ceremony before her, and she imagined the countless others who would come after. The sight of the guards, the sound of the music, and the disciplined movements she had witnessed formed a vivid, lasting impression. It was more than a tourist attraction. It was a living story, one that had shaped her understanding of dedication, respect, and tradition. By the time Emma reached the nearest tube station, she felt a sense of closure, a gentle satisfaction that comes from having experienced something extraordinary. She looked back once more at Buckingham Palace, its gates standing tall and proud, and smiled. The changing of the guard had not only shown her the precision of the soldiers, but had also offered a deeper lesson in human effort, cooperation, and the enduring power of tradition. She knew that this day would remain etched in her memory, a beautiful and inspiring chapter in her journey through London. As Emma descended into the station, she felt a calm excitement for the rest of her day in the city. The palace, the guards, and the ceremony had given her a sense of history and inspiration that she could carry forward, reminding her that even in modern life, there is value in discipline, respect, and dedication. She felt grateful for the experience, knowing that it was a rare opportunity to witness a living tradition in its full glory. For Emma, the morning at Buckingham Palace was not just an event to observe. It was a story to remember, a lesson to cherish, and a moment that would continue to inspire her for years to come.